Political parties have expressed opposition to National Treasury's consideration of withdrawing half of its contingency reserves to reduce government's debt and fund public sector salaries. Congress of South African Trade Unions, however, has welcomed the move to ease the debt on state-owned enterprises. Cosatu Parliamentary Coordinator Matthew Parks joins us for more on this conversation, and he joins us via a video link. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. Of course, we have seen some political parties showing hostility towards this latest move from Treasury. But you as Cosatu, you are in support of it. Why are you supporting this?
Yeah. So look, I think we should give Treasury and the Reserve Bank some space to see what's possible, what's not possible, look at the different options. So I think we should avoid the temptation of political parties from the opposition benches simply just to shoot something down because it comes from a government. The fact is we are in a serious crisis. The state is bleeding financially. We also have many critical state-owned enterprises like Transnet and Eskom, which play a critical role in growing the economy, upon which thousands of jobs, many companies depend upon them to be well-functioning, well-run, etc. So if there's space for the Reserve Bank to say, look, we can give some assistance to some of our state-owned enterprises to pay off the debt, that's something we should be looking at. This is not something you would do every day of the week. The Reserve Bank reserve funds are there to defend the rand. That's critical to the economy because you need to protect their currency from speculators from overseas who often take advantage of other countries' weaker currencies, do a hit on it, and that has devastating effects to the economy. But many economists, locally and overseas, are saying there is some space that the Reserve Bank could provide some relief to the state. We don't think we should spend it on normal recurring expenditure. So you wouldn't want to spend it on something that you're going to have to fund continuously. So not new expenditure per se, but if you can utilize part of it in a smart way that says, for example, let's assist Transnet, let's kill off its debt, for example, or let's give it significant debt relief, which can enable Transnet to then to invest in infrastructure, to invest in securing spare parts, bringing on board additional tugboats, buying new cranes for the ports, things which can really shift Transnet around quickly, which can help grow the economy. That can be a useful, smart thing to do because that will unlock the mining, the manufacturing, agricultural sectors. It'll benefit those companies and thousands of jobs in those value chains. That can be a useful thing because it also brings additional revenue to the state through company taxes, etc. So that can be a smart thing, but it's a thing you could do once off. You couldn't do this more than that because you need to maintain sufficient liquidity in the Reserve Bank to protect the currency, to protect the economy from inflation, from speculators, etc.
And Matthew, concerns have been raised. I know that you are telling us the good parts of it in terms of why, this money is necessary for government and for Treasury. But concerns have been raised, and some are saying that this is just a quick fix and government should actually find long-lasting solutions to fix the problem. Do you think that this is also just a quick fix, or do you think that it's necessary for government to tap into these reserves?
Yeah, look, we need to be smart about it. The worst thing that we can do is to do it based on some once-off expenditure which is not going to change things. It would not be a smart move simply to give debt relief to Transnet, but not to put in place measures to assist Transnet to deal with issues of corruption, of wasteful expenditure, of cable theft, of criminality, all the many issues which have really bled Transnet. So if we're smart about it, and we need to be very smart, we can use it in a very strategic way, which can give relief, for example, to Transnet. And Transnet is not a normal SOE. It's not like, I don't want to mention other SOEs that might get offended, but Transnet and Eskom really are the two most critical SOEs in the economy. The entire economy depends upon this well-functioning. So we can do it in a smart way. Obviously, this is a thing you can do once off. There's not unlimited funds. You can't do this every year. So it can't be a part of the recurrent budget expenditure of the state. But Transnet, for example, is having 161 billion rand worth of debt. It's suffocating. But if you can ease part of that burden from the shoulders for the next 2-3 years, enable it to focus on maintenance, getting its Transnet Federal fully operational, sorting out the ports, the congestion at Durban Harbour, for example, that can be a beneficial thing which can really benefit the economy, and that'll benefit the state with additional taxes flowing into the fiscus. But we wouldn't want to spend it on something which is not going to really turn things around. And of course, whatever support is given to Transnet or to Eskom, etc., it needs to be conditional upon the management there turning things around. We can't simply indulge mismanagement and then, of course, we'll be in the same crisis in a year's time.
And, we're always told that, government has no money and we have a bloated public sector in this country and the wage bill is just too high. And, now that we find ourselves in this position, one would even ask and say, are these the ramifications of that, of, the continuous talk around that we have a bloated public sector wage bill, and hence why we're finding ourselves in this position where we need to find means and ways of ensuring that salaries are also paid?
Yeah. So, let's just stick to some of the numbers. And it's easy for political parties to throw slogans around, to demonize public servants. Public servants are really nurses and teachers and police officers and so on. In 1994, we had 34 million South Africans, 1 million public servants. Today, the population has nearly doubled to 62 million South Africans, yet the public service has barely grown with it. It's about 1.1 million, 1.2 million public servants. So the ratio of teachers, of nurses, of doctors, of paramedics, of police officers to the public who they serve has declined. And that's had a huge set on the quality of public services that the state needs to provide constitutionally to society, which the economy depends upon in functioning public services. If we look at the wage bill itself, don't take my stats. Let's look at National Treasury's medium-term budget statement they tabled at Parliament last month. They said the wage bill has decreased from a portion of the budget from 35% a few years ago to 31% today. And that's well within their target of 25 to 35%. So the wage bill has actually been shrinking, it's not been increasing. The reason why we're in a crisis as a country is because of state capture, because of corruption, because we've neglected to invest in critical infrastructure like Eskom and Transnet and Metro and so forth. It's because we've allowed corruption to become endemic across society, many municipalities and so forth. And all of these have helped to suffocate the economy. So we're going to have a 0.9% GDP growth or minus 0.2%. Then, of course, things are not going to improve. The reason why we have a medium-term budget revenue shortfall in November of 56 billion rand is because of transit. So transit is not because we pay our nurses too much or too little. It's because of lack of competent management, lack of support given to transit on security to stop cable theft, inadequate investments in infrastructure, training of staff, etc. So we need to be smart about things. If we look at the South African Revenue Service, because the state invested in it in the past 2 years, put additional resources into it, put in place competent management, hired additional staff, invested in the IT capacity, SARS has managed to take the revenue tax compliance rate from 61% to 64% in 2 years. That's yielded an additional 60 billion rand for the fiscus. So if we can be smart about things, we invest in quality public services, from police to health to home affairs to roads to electricity to rail, then the economy will grow. And this is how many successful countries like Finland, like Sweden, Germany, etc. grew, or China. But I think for us simply to say, well, let's blame the public service, that's not going to assist. And in fact, if we look at anything, because Treasury at times has thought a lazy shortcut route of balancing the fiscus by pickpocketing nurses, what we've seen is that skilled public servants like doctors or nurses or teachers or police officers have simply left for better paying jobs in the private sector or overseas.
Matthew, thank you so much for your time here on SABC News this evening. That is Matthew Parks. He is Cosatu Parliamentary Coordinator, and he was just giving us his insight there when it comes to their support as Cosatu, when it comes to tapping into those contingency reserves. Of course, there are reports saying that the government is looking at least using half of those contingency reserves.